Welcome to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast, where the legal industry gets real. I'm your host, Eda Rosa, legal consultant, speaker, and founder of Eda Rosa LLC and the Limitless Paralegal Academy. This isn't your stuffy legal studies school lecture. We're talking mindset, money, modern workflows, and how to build a career and a life you don't need a vacation from. Let's cut the fluff, raise the bar, and change the game one conversation at a time. If you like what you hear, feel free to share and send us your feedback. Now let's talk paralegal.
Hey guys, welcome to the Let's Talk
In this
Paralegal
episode,
podcast.
I sit down with
Today,
Chelsea
I'm
Jones,
so excited
a
because we're
social
talking
media
about a topic
strategist
that
who
I
helps
literally
lawyers
get
and law firm owners
excited
turn
about, but
their
I also
online
light up.
presence
Like it
into
brings
a
out the
lead
best part
generating
of me in
powerhouse.
every single way.
Together,
And it's
we dive into
personal
how personal
branding
branding
and
can
why
make or
not
break
bring the
your
one that's actually
career
going
in
to
today's
teach
legal
all this
landscape.
on our
Listen in
Limitless
for more.
Academy, our amazing instructor, Chelsea Jones. So welcome to the show. And again, if you haven't seen my face and you haven't heard the excitement right now, you will, because I'm super excited about this. But Chelsea, before we get into all that, because I know you have plenty to say and plenty to share for our audience, how about we talk about you and kind of where you're at and what led you to where you're at now?
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you for having me on. I'm really excited not only to be helping and contributing to the course, but to just have the opportunity to like collaborate together on your platform. I'm really excited about that. I guess a little background about me. So I'm the owner of Chelsea Ann Media, which is a social media marketing agency for lawyers. I started all of this over 5 years ago, but I officially started to niche down and really focus on lawyers about 2 years ago now. So I've been doing social media, I've been doing marketing for over 5 years in total. Right now, with what I do and specialize in, is I help lawyers specifically with either building a personal brand if they come to me and don't have one, or they come to me with an existing brand, but they just don't really know what to do with it or like where to go with it. So I help them build that and amplify that on social media. I focus more so on Instagram with my work, but I do also offer some support on like other platforms like LinkedIn, TikTok, things like that. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
I love it. I actually have some follow-up questions because I just
Yeah,
learned two new things about you. So,
great.
the fact that you niche down to law firms, what made you do that?
It was almost like I just had to in a way. Like it made sense more so. Like of course I really wanted to and it made sense for me. It kind of just fell into my lap. Like at some point, right, I looked at all my clients and I realized I was only working with lawyers. Because in the past, when I was starting in social media marketing, I worked with some different industries, like real estate was a big one, um, interior designers, things like that.
Love
But
those.
yeah, then eventually along the way, I signed a lawyer and I actually still work with her today. We've been working together for, I think we just celebrated 4 years together, which is huge.
I love
Yeah,
that.
so I signed her and then it was kind of like word of mouth from there, referrals. And it got to the point where all my clients were lawyers and I was like, I love this. Also, I actually wanted to go into criminal justice before I got into marketing. So I was going to college for criminal justice, which is a fun fact. So I kind of feel like my passion for the law like came back full circle somehow. So I love it.
Oh my God, I love
Yeah.
that. That's so cool. And the other thing that you just shared that I was like, yay, is that you actually started in marketing 5 years ago. So what kind of ignited the marketing aspect? Because you just told me you wanted to go to criminal justice. So what
Yeah,
happened there?
that's a great question. I know it seems like different paths right there. Actually in that time of my life that I was going to school for criminal justice, I always had an interest in marketing. Like I can't explain it. I'm sure you can relate or anyone listening can relate. Like sometimes you just have this like desire or goal in your mind and you don't know where it came from. So I decided to explore it while I was in college and I decided to make a blog. So I got into blogging. I taught myself how to make a website. I taught myself how to drive traffic to it. I started creating courses and selling things to teach people how to blog and make a blog. So that's really what like took it to that next level of like I can do this. I can produce money from this. Like this could be a thing. So that's kind of where it like stemmed from. And then I started to think I really enjoy more so the marketing, like the content, not like making a blog and all the website tech stuff. So that's where I started to lean more into like content creation and marketing and that sort of thing.
I love that. All right.
Yeah.
Now that we sidetracked a little bit, but I wanted to know. It was my out of my curiosity.
Yeah.
So let's actually talk about what personal branding is, because a lot of people I know, and especially in the legal industry, I know this because I do it through conversation, really don't understand that there is a difference between your business having their marketing and doing all the things and a personal brand deriving that business, right? Driving it towards you kind of thing. So let's talk about what the actual personal branding is so that people can kind of, unpack it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. That's actually something, so most of my clients are law firm owners. So in that case, right, they have their law firm's branding, but then they prioritize their own personal branding. And I actually have a client too who, so she's not a law firm owner. She works at a law firm, but she does a great job of like having a personal brand and teaching and educating other legal professionals of the importance of it. So that's definitely been, I think, a gap of misunderstanding in the legal industry with like the difference of the two and really how important it is to have that. So personal branding, when it comes down to it, like in simplistic terms, right, is you. It's your reflection of who you are, what you stand for, your mission, your values. It's the opportunity for your ideal clients to connect with you, not just the law firm's entity or the business's entity. That's the best way I would explain it. I don't know how you would interpret
No,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you on that. It's also just finding yourself as an authentic person. I feel like sometimes when we're trying to do personal branding, and
Yeah.
trust me, I was a huge, huge culprit of this. So I'm gonna tell you the not to do's.
Okay.
And I think one of them, my first one that I learned early on that wasn't great was not being true to myself.
Hmm.
So what happened was, I was in the legal industry for 20 something years before I decided to go off on my own and build my business. And in that interim, I started getting these what they call subconscious biases, right? Or maybe insecurities or fears or however you want to interpret this, but it's a thought, it's a mindset or a belief is how the psychology is explaining it, but it's a belief. Sometimes it becomes a core belief, which in my case it did, that I have to act, look and speak a certain way so that I can get into a certain room or get that certain opportunity. And
Yeah.
so one of those core beliefs was that I had to dress a certain way, look a certain way, loosen up my accent because I had a very strong accent, dumb down my personality because I'm very vibrant and very expressive, and I talk with my hands, as you can see. And so it was a very tug of war with me, and I was wondering why I wasn't getting clients. And I was trying to figure out, okay, as far as consulting, freelancing, it was easy. I'm just selling services that they need anyway, so it doesn't matter. But with
Yeah.
consulting, it's a whole different ball game. You have to kind of like entice them and be like, no, no, you really do need this because sometimes they don't see the value. And so when that came along, I started going more to network events in bigger stages and I started speaking. And I realized that the more comfortable I was with myself, the more I said, no, forget that. I'm going to dye my hair red. I've always wanted my hair red. I'm going to buy that suit because I love it and I look fabulous in it. And I'm going to be okay with my little accents here and there because everybody's well aware that I speak more than one language. So it should not be an issue. And so when I started getting more comfortable with myself, that's really where the brand of me, my business, the podcast, all the elements that became what now is Eda Enterprises really elevated, right? And that's where I really hit the jackpot. I started signing clients that I actually wanted to work with. I started attracting what I wanted because I was who I wanted, right? And so personal branding is for me anyway is more like a voyage, right? Like you're on this journey and you got to kind of figure yourself out. You got to be true to yourself, and you got to be honest with yourself and sit down with yourself and ask yourself a couple questions and be
Mhm.
like, what does the core me want? So in my case, what does Eda want? What are her wants? Not because she's a mom and she wants to provide for her family, not because she loves yoga and she wants that flexibility to go to do yoga all and practice yoga all the time. No, those are hobbies, those are labels. What does Eda want? Eda wants to change the industry from the inside out. Eda wants to give voices to those paralegals that find that they don't have a voice, kind of similar to what I had. Eda wants to put people in rooms that they thought they would never be in. Eda wants to create the platform that she never had when she was looking for guidance. So
Mhm.
that's really the Eda. And in those little things, I'm very, very aggressive when it comes to things that I want. And I won't stop until I get it, or I'll pivot, or I'll rebuild, or I'll, reconstruct. I'll do whatever I need to do, even if it looks a little different than my original idea. Ultimately, it's the same goal. And so that ambition and that motivation is really what got me to where I am today, which I was telling you before the recording that I was at a network event for my graduate class as a master's, and I reunited with my cohort, and there was prior cohorts that came after us and the new ones that were coming in, and we all like started to mingle, and then we started talking about this, which perfect timing. And so we started talking about personal branding, and they're like, oh yeah, talk about the queen of personal branding. And they started gloating about me and how amazing of a job I'm doing, and how they see me everywhere from LinkedIn to Instagram to newsletters to magazines to this to that. And it's like, yeah, I did that on my own. Like I did that because I it's something that you attract. And I don't think people understand the power of law of attraction. And even it doesn't matter what belief system you're in or believe in, it is what it is. Once you change your mindset, you can still be in the same exact environment, because I have not changed my address. Like I'm physically in the same place that I started my business. I literally have not changed my address. I'm still married. I still have two kids. Like nothing has changed from 8 years ago as far as my life itself. But the
Mhm.
way I look at my life and the way that I want to look at my life, that has changed, right? My circumstances have changed. My opportunities have changed. And I'm getting more and more opportunities because of that, right? So I always say personal injury is more of the journey, right? And building it is very, very exhausting. I do
Mhm.
not suggest that you do it on your own by any means. I have a business coach, I have a therapist, I have a consultant, I have a mentor, I have a great, great, support team in my personal and professional life. And I would not be halfway where I am without them. And I got to be honest with myself. I get that question asked a lot. And they're like, well, how do you do it all? And I'm like, I don't. Honestly, I don't. I have a whole entire team behind me. Yes, for a year, I did completely do everything on my own other than my personal life. But
Yeah.
after you get over that hump, you have a team. You have people that help you. You delegate, and you have to learn that. So that actually brings me to the authentic stories that you were talking about in our little like brief, discussion
Mhm.
about it, telling those stories, right? So this story that I just told you guys about my journey, about this, about being vulnerable, about being yourself, that is a perfect example of what an authentic story is, right? Like this is me, guys. Like I'm not any different if you met me in person versus if you're listening to me on the podcast. I give you the same face, the same thing, depending if pre or post coffee. You will get different versions, I promise you. But this, right? Like honest, right? And so I learned, and to tie this all together, and Chelsea, I definitely want to hear your feedback on this, is to put the branding as a personal and as the business together for me worked really well. Hey, listen, this is what my client experience went through. This is how we were able to help them, and this is how we can help you, right? And so really bringing I was having a conversation with my son the other day, and this is what happened, this is what I learned, and this is how it ties back into tidbits on how you can run your business and grow your business, and how you can handle different personalities and things like that. It's still a
Mhm.
personal story, but I'm still tying it back to how you can grow your business and everything else. So that brings us to our social media, right? How can we transpire that information and still be, like authentic and ourselves and still be like more of a brand? But
Yeah.
maybe I feel like sometimes we go a little too far. Like there's some people out there that go a little too personal. So like
Mhm.
finding that happy median, I guess, would be one of them. But I want to hear you and kind of what your experience has been, especially working with lawyers that have multiple things.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved hearing all of that, by the way. Thank you for sharing that. I love the depth too of how you explained what a personal brand is. Like, and I think that ties into like how I go about working with the lawyers that I have to show that authenticity online. You're so right. Like it is a kind of like you have to do some inner reflection. You have to do some uncomfortable. I don't think we talk about that enough, right? Like
Yeah.
you have to do some uncomfortable digging in a way, so to speak, to see like, okay, wait a second, who am I?
Hmm.
What do I want? Am I doing things in my life right now that are going to give me that as an end result? Because I think it's so easy, not just any in any career you're pursuing, even for myself, like I think it's so easy to get caught up in the work and then you lose sight of who you are, like as a person at the end of the day. So I think with my clients, when it comes to finding ways to find that balance, kind of like you were saying, of, striking that authenticity, still bringing it back though, right, to like the goal, which is to get clients and to like build referral relationships it is partially doing that inner reflection, which most of them come to me and have already started to build a brand. Like they're on their personal brand journey. They might be like early on, and they'll come to me with some realizations. Like I had a client actually I started working with almost a year and a half ago. And she's like, motherhood's really important to me. Like, I love being a mother. It's transformed me. I don't talk about it at all on my social media, but I'm a lawyer and that's what I talk about. And I talk about my, practice area. But I want to talk about being a mom. Can I do that? Like, am I allowed to do that? And she asked me that. And I was
I
like,
love that.
yeah, and I'm like, absolutely. Like, why wouldn't you be able to? But then it made me realize, like, how we get so caught up in our heads about, especially what you were saying, you felt you had to look, act, speak a certain way to be taken seriously. And that's a huge pressure that you carry, especially in the legal industry. So I had to help her kind of coach her in the beginning. Like we just went about putting together some like I guess initial pieces of content that start to talk about motherhood, but didn't like we don't just suddenly start posting a bunch about like being a mom and all that. We just kind of started to mix it into her practice area. She's actually a birth injury lawyer.
Oh,
So we were
that works.
able, yeah, so it was like taking the experiences she's had as a birth injury lawyer. She's also really passionate about maternal health advocacy. So I think finding a way to take your interests, your passions, and really sit and reflect and think about what you do too as a legal professional and maybe find ways that it can complement each other. And it could be anything. I mean, I have another client who's a personal injury lawyer, also a mother, really loves to like talk about motherhood too. And so the way we do it with her is she's a law firm owner. So we wrap it into that. We wrap it into how does she juggle and manage a firm while being a mom, and she kind of gets to fulfill that passion and stay authentic through that way. So, I don't know. Those are a couple like examples, I guess, to give like a tangible way that you can take something that feels authentic for you, but isn't necessarily about getting a client, but tying it into your business and tying it into your business's brand as well.
Hey legal pros, are you ready to stop playing small? The Limitless Paralegal Academy is officially open, offering powerhouse courses, real-world tools, and expert-led training to help you build the career and life you actually want. We're not stopping there. The Limitless Paralegal Tour is hitting the road. We're bringing the mindset shifts, career strategies, and community straight to your city with epic speakers, actionable sessions, and zero boring PowerPoints. This isn't your average CLE. This is your legal career reimagined. Join the Academy, meet us on tour, become the legal pro everyone remembers. Visit limitlessparalegals.com to enroll and grab your ticket now. Be bold, be brilliant, but most importantly, be limitless.
Right. And you talk a lot about building the trust and the relationship and really intertwining the community, right? Because ultimately, and I talk a lot about this on the podcast, ultimately, we are community servers. And I think somebody had quoted me on LinkedIn because I said that in a presentation, and they're like, I'm taking that from you. And they legitimately took it, quoted it, and reposted it and tagged me on it. And I thought it was beautiful. But the thing is that it is true. We are the ones that serve our communities in a way that unfortunately or fortunately depending, right, because we could be the lifesaver or the life hinderer depending on what side of the coin we're on, but we are there either way to protect and serve our community just as much as a police officer, a firefighter, although they are more physical, right? We are more the legalities and the repercussions that come after that, right? The things that come after the saving or after whatever incident it is or life-changing event. So I always say we are community servers and we need to see ourselves as such. And in doing that, though, we have to build relationships and trust and community and everything with our clients, with our colleagues, because if our own colleagues can't trust us, then we're not really going to get to where we need to get to in the case or in the strategizing or all the logistics that come in with actually protecting and serving the community. So tell us a little bit about that and how we can build that through our branding.
Mm. Yeah, I love how you explain that, like the community aspect of what you do and how it's like, honestly, if I'm speaking from my opinion, I feel like lawyers don't get the credit that they deserve in that way. You know, there's a lot of negative connotations too, sometimes to being a lawyer or attorney or and what that looks like. So I think bringing it back to the community and remembering your why is so important. And for my clients, what I've done with them is I'm thinking of like a recent example actually. I just had a client rebrand and she felt like her prior branding was like straying from that. Like it wasn't really showcasing how much she values her community and where she comes from. Like she practices in Alabama. She's from there and that's really something important to her. Um and she was wanting to explore some different practice areas as well. So we did a rebranding for her to make the content feel more focused back in on the basics, like what really matters, which is where she comes from, the people, you know, the community, you know, the cases she wants to take on and help people with, and basically be a voice for the community. So what we did was we honed in on the types of cases that she wanted to take on, the types of work she wants to attract and help people with. And then from there, we started off with a lot of more personal reflection. So she started leading with the content of like, you know, this is who I am, this is where I come from, this is why this is important to me. So just speaking about that and putting that out there. I don't think it needs to be overly complicated, but just making sure your content regularly is reemphasizing where you are, like reemphasizing where you're located, who you're trying to help, your why, and your mission statement. And then we started leaning more into like the educational content, which was the types of cases, the practice areas she wanted to handle, but leaning it like taking it back into the community. So, for example, she would share a, you know, she wanted to lean into sexual assault kind of cases. So she would share some real life examples, like without disclosing any details, though, of what was happening in the community and how that ties into the cases and ties into the work that she does. So I think that's a great way to go about it in a natural way, is taking the types of work, types of cases you're looking into handling or attracting, and weaving it back into the community. Like, how has that impacted the community? Or how are you hoping your work will impact the community? That's a really powerful way to do that.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what I love about that the most though is that she's still staying true to herself. Like she realize or they realize that, it's something important to them. They realize that they were straying away. And I think that's half the battle, right? Just being aware of
Yeah.
your circumstances, right? Being aware of what exactly is happening and how we can move forward from that, right?
Yeah.
So I love that. And that goes into, building connections and, networking and really the credibility that comes into all that and all the other things that we need to talk about when it comes to personal branding that we probably won't have time for, but we are just scratching the surface here. However, I do want to hone in on some tangibles for the audience. So something that maybe they can take away, maybe they can start practicing on their own, maybe like what I like to call like a reflection moment where they can actually really start contemplating on what's happening and what they can do,
Yeah.
and kind of like what is aligning with the audience, right? I feel for me, data is important, analyzing your data, seeing who the dynamics and the geographics are of your audience, where are they listening from, in our case for the podcast, where are they, where do they hang out, where do they shop, and I mean, don't be creepy about it, but like really understanding your people, and right, because I know I can get a little intense sometimes, but depending on how deep you want to go into the marketing strategy. However, it all helps you, right? So like with us, we co-branded with Starbucks. And so we noticed that most of our audience shopped at Target and loved Starbucks. What do those two things have in common? There is usually most likely a Starbucks in a Target or at a Target or near the Target or somewhere in the vicinity of a Target, right? So what we started doing was we started doing these little gift cards, giveaways that have the Starbucks logo. You can clearly see that it's a Starbucks card, a gift card, but it has our logo as well. And it has like our little education stuff and everything else. And so we co-branded with Starbucks because we understood that our audience really likes their cup of coffee or their whatever, their refresher or whatever it is from Starbucks. And
Yeah.
ever since we did that and we started promoting it, hey guys, if you engage with us, if you attend our events, if you do this, we started giving them incentives on reasons to come in and this and that. And who doesn't want a Starbucks card? Like, hello. And so really understanding your audience can help you just take you to the next level, right? Whatever level that is, even if you're just starting off, just getting the wheels off the ground. But really give our audience like a nice little tidbit of what they can do from, deriving from the personal branding.
Yeah, I think knowing your audience is super important. And I also want to add to that, like, as you walk away from this conversation, wherever you're at in your personal brand journey, if you're not clear at all on who your audience is, that's okay. Like, I want that to be a reminder that that's okay. We all start somewhere. And the good news is you can start today. You can start getting to know who your audience is today. Obviously, that comes with some reflection. So I think, can I give two tidbits?
Yeah, of
That
course.
too. Okay. So my first one would be like leaning into what you just said about the audience, knowing your audience, reflecting on, and whether you take a pen and paper, if you're that kind of person. I like to write things in my phone, like my notes, whatever works for you. Like a little kind of reflection journaling exercise I would encourage is taking the time to write down. It can be a brain dump of who you think your audience is. Like, what do they act like? What age are they? What interests do they have? Where are they at in their life? Like, you don't need to get too detailed, but a general sense of where they're at in their journey in their life, their age range, and their hobbies would be like a great starting point. Then taking that though, and if you have been creating content, then go to your analytics, like you were saying. Go to your, whether it's Instagram, LinkedIn, if you're on TikTok, Every platform has its own analytics insights, and if you're not familiar with navigating that, you can Google it. There's some tips for how to do that and start getting a sense of, okay, like your actual audience demographics, like from the data, and see if it matches. Is it matching with what you think? That's usually a good indicator of how connected you already are to who you're speaking to and to your audience. And it'll help you see if you need to maybe change something or get more clear on something. The second thing I would say, and I say this too to potential clients that come to me or when people inquire to have social media support, check your own platforms, whether you've been creating content or not. I encourage you to open up your own Instagram profile, your TikTok, your LinkedIn, your Facebook, whatever it is. And this is going to be a little like maybe not so fun to do, but I want you to actually ask yourself if you were not yourself, like put yourself in the frame of mind of your audience, looking at your page, would that feel enough for them to pick up the phone and call you for legal help? Would that feel enough for them to send you a message to connect with you and build a referral relationship? And if
I
the
love
answer is
that.
no, thank you. If the answer is no, that's going to be really like powerful. It's a powerful realization to start thinking in the frame of mind of the other person, of what, is maybe missing that you need to build upon. So that's always a good starting point, I think. So those would be the two kind of actionable steps I would really encourage everyone listening to this podcast to take away.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I would add to that and say, continue doing that. That's not
Mm,
something that you'll do once or twice. The more you grow, the more followers you get, the more audiences, the more leads you're gathering, the more you want to do it because your audience can change. So our audience was strictly paralegals for a very long time within reason because I started my company as a freelance paralegal and everybody was interested on what I was doing and how I was doing it. But then
mhm,
once we started getting into consulting, that's more lawyers, law firm owners, law firm leaders. That's where the legal leaders circle came in, all the things that we do as a consulting firm. And so our platform, although it's still just one platform, it consolidated both of our audiences. So
mhm,
our content and everything we put out there may not always land with every single person because we're either talking strictly to the paralegal or strictly to the law firm owner. But most of the time, we try to marry both because they both need to understand that training is important. Operations and processes are, a big deal and can help you be more effective and efficient. And
yeah.
so, and another thing I would say is make sure you have the same message across platforms
Mhm,
because
mhm,
that can get confusing. So if you're doing YouTube videos on one thing and your LinkedIn, Instagram, Meta in general is like another thing, you're doing something wrong because now they're confused as to who you are and what you're trying to do, right? So if you're going to go in multiple platforms, make sure the message is the same. It doesn't have to be the same logo or the same picture or anything like that. It just has to be the messaging, the content that you're putting out there, the videos, the tips, the tricks, the resources. It has to be consolidated and all. It's almost like a book, right? It has to read well and it has to actually people have to understand what you're trying to say and what you're trying to portray. So
Yeah,
love
consistency
it.
is really important. Yeah, that's a huge part of personal branding. So I'm glad you mentioned
Well, yeah,
that.
absolutely. But thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know your clients are probably hating me right now. No, I'm just kidding. They're like, no, she needs to be working. And but thank you for taking the time and just, really giving our audience something to think about, even if it's just to think about it and take action later. But if you're going to take action now. Like Chelsea said, there's no better time than now. Might as well just do it. Let's just go for it. It's going to be a journey, guys. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to take. I love how people are like, oh, within 90 days, you have enough information. That is absolutely incorrect because after those 90 days, something else can happen. And the industry's changing, AI is changing the game, the way we work changed the game. Like, there's just so many different elements that we can't catch up. It's almost like Wall Street, Even though
Yeah.
you think you got a great stock, the next day it'll just go down. So you got to understand that marketing in general, personal branding, you're the one consistent thing. So if you're going to change for the better and let the people know. Even though I didn't announce my red hair, although nobody really realized it. So we're good.
I love that.
Oh man. But anyway, I wanted to make you guys laugh before we ended this episode and wrapped up. Chelsea, is there anything else you want to let the audience know before we sign off?
I don't think so. I think the one thing I would just add is I hope that this conversation like encourages you and instills some sort of just an open mind to what personal branding and social media marketing can do for you if you've been on the fence about it. Have fun with it, truly have fun with it. People take it way too seriously. Yes, of course, there's things you want to be cautious about and best practices, but at the end of the day, the legal professionals and the attorneys I work with that have built a firm, a law firm from scratch from their social media, they're having fun with it. They're just having fun with it and they're enjoying the journey. And I hope you can do the same. So that's all. That's all I
Absolutely.
have
I
to say.
love
But
it.
thank you again for having me
Oh
on.
my God, yes. I love the photo shoots. Guys, you got to do a photo shoot. I mean, it's amazing. It's so much fun to just be
Oh,
yourself and choose your outfits and
yeah.
choose like you can find it on sale. You can find up and coming photographers that are just opening up a studio that will give you a discount. Like it's not as expensive as you think it is. Start doing your research, but really, really, really have fun with it. I know sometimes we get timid and we get scared because of the unknown, and maybe that's just not your personality. Maybe you're not vibrant and spicy like I am, and that's perfectly okay. You are your version. My best friend is the opposite of me, which is great. And so, she's very quiet. And the first time she did her photo shoot, she actually did it outside in a place where she felt comfortable. And she just found her medium. She found the middle, and it worked. And of course, she's naturally fabulous, but she looks fabulous and she looked like a complete pro, which she is. And she enjoyed it. So enjoy the process, guys. Enjoy the journey. That's all it's about. And until next time, until justice is served, we'll be here. Bye, guys.